here at the BraveWings Fashion Show, and we're talking to a survivor that is with the Arizona Burn Foundation, and her name is Graciela. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Hi. I was actually burned about the age of about 18 months in Bolivia. I was born in South America to a family of llama herders, and I was caught in a kerosene fire. It was an accident that had actually caught my home on fire. Me and my older brother were burned. I was burned about 30% of my body, and I laid in my village for about 14 days before they sought any like official medical treatment, just because they weren't sure if I was going to survive. And so I bounced around from a couple different government hospitals, and I ended up in La Paz, which is the capital of Bolivia. And I was there for about a year and a half until I actually got connected with a woman who worked with a relief organization, and her name was Beth Nobles, and she was from the United States, and she was a trauma nurse, a child's nurse, and she had been located there to work with just at-risk children who needed any medical care in any way she could facilitate that in the U.S. And somehow my name got brought up to her after being in a government hospital for about a year, that there was a little girl who was going to go off to an orphanage whose parents cared for her. My parents loved me. They came in to visit me. Just coming from a very indigenous background, it was just not something that they could bring me back into the community. So they thought it would be better for me to stay in the city. And so they were just nervous of where I would go. And somehow I got connected with this nurse named Beth Nobles from America. And long story short, she brought me to the U.S. And one of the things that she did was at the age of 7, after being here for a couple of years, she plugged me into, at the time, which was the Arizona Burns and Trauma, now Arizona Burn Foundation. And so I got involved with them when I was about 7 years old, and really got involved with the camp. And it was probably the first time that as a young girl that I saw a lot of people who looked like me in some way, and I could identify and relate. And I saw older campers and counselors who were burned. And I think for me it was just kind of empowering to see men and women who were active and who were living their life regardless of being burned. And it allowed me to just definitely come out of, I've never been shy, but being burned kind of adds a little more stress to being a child. But coming to camp really helped me just kind of embrace who I was, and I was very outgoing, and I got connected with Dr. Ruth Remmer at the time. And she used to be part of the organization a little bit more. Now she does a lot of work with thriving and surviving, research for burn victims to see, like, what are they doing? How do they cultivate as adults? So I got involved with her, and she asked me to do some public speaking. And so I was there at the beginning with the Forever House that they have, where people can come and heal and go to the best surgeons here in Phoenix, because we have a great burn center here. So I was been just with the foundation since a little girl, and just doing a lot with them, and they've supported me like many others with school and just cultivating me to be a young woman.
Well, it sounds like your experience has been because there was such a community that you could get related to and that you could associate with. And I think, what I'm hearing is that's what really helps the victims and the survivors, right?
Definitely. I think community is a big aspect of it. I think community in general for anyone is vital, but if you don't have a community after a traumatic event, especially as a child, you don't know where your identity is, because in some ways your identity is so different from everyone else's. So to have a community that is thriving and excelling after having a traumatic event such as a burn or something severe like that is so beneficial. So I definitely know that helped me as a child. Like I said, to see men and women who had been burned, who were still able to go and accomplish their educational goals and go and pursue careers, because I think it could be so easy for me to allow my burns to limit me, but it wasn't an option, because I saw so many people who were doing so many things, who were burned at a different degree than I was, where they were burned maybe more on their body or had more scars, or men and women who had less scars but still had internal scars. So definitely wrestling with my physical and my emotional and my spiritual scars was a big thing that the foundation does at camp. They want to do that whole soul care, which I think is vital. Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm glad that you could be here tonight to participate. I hope you get to enjoy the show. And I definitely look forward to learning more about the Arizona Burn Foundation, because it sounds like a fabulous organization. So,
All Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, hugs. I gotta give me a hug. That was great. Thank you.